I was punched in the face for not knowing the difference between my rock bands. You're going to stick around at the end of the video for more rock and roll excitement. We're going to dive right in. Bands that I confuse with one another. Obviously, since I confuse these bands with their names and which ones they are, I am not a gigantic fan of these bands. They're not somebody that I listen to on a regular basis. So in this video, as I go through the three pairings, trifectas, of bands that I get confused, I'm going to be going through a very brief history of each band and what they're famous for, how I know them, and hopefully we will learn together how to tell the difference between these rock bands. Steely Dan and the Moody Blues. How did I get these two bands so confused? It rhymes even. The Moody Blues were, and they still are, a 1964 rock band that traveled between the subgenres like the Enterprise travels this quadrant, like a madman. The songs that I know them best for are Your Wildest Dreams. Now, Steely Dan, before I even looked, I knew that Steely Dan was named after a household object that some of you may own. But again, we're going to kind of rhyme. I couldn't really name a song. I didn't know what songs they sang. Shame on me! Steely Dan began in 1971, and like the Moody Blues, they took and extended a little bit of a hiatus sometime in the middle of their decades-long career. Moody Blues looking like one of the longest running rock bands out there aside from a big hiatus. They're back there with the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. They're ancient. The Moody Blues and Steely Dan, their careers do overlap quite a bit over the 70s and onward, and it does look like these guys did at least 2 tours together that I could find information on. So maybe somewhere along the line there was an article or something where I just got them cross-haired in my hair. Between the two, I am definitely a lot more familiar with the discography of Steely Dan. Staples like Reelin In The Years, Do It Again, and Ricky Don't Lose That Number are songs that I have ingrained in my psyche somehow, from somewhere, with no memory of how they got there. Weird! Although Ricky Don't Lose That Number reminds me of a relationship I had once.
Going a lot harder and a lot heavier on this next one.
Motor Grader and Meshuggah. The name on this one, I can kind of see how I got them confused. They are both, starting with M, they're both pretty aggressive heavy metal bands, but there are some major differences which we are going to discuss now if you have the same problem where you get Meshuggah and Motor Grader mixed up. Motor Grader is the newer band forming in 1995 with an aggressive form of alternative and new metal where they formed their own instrument. I know Motor Grader from their 2003 album where they had songs like Down and Suffocate, which were moderately popular, while Meshuggah is the more legendary heavy metal extreme band formed in 1997, and they've been more active than Motor Grader. Have not created their own instrument though. Meshuggah have a very storied catalog, and I know them from MP3s that I downloaded in the early 2000s of Bleed, Obscene, War, and Soulburn. And while I don't casually listen to either of these bands, Motor Grader and Meshuggah, I do enjoy the selected songs I have in my MP3 collection, and I definitely look forward to listening to every song ever by these hard hitters. And finally, we're here. We got a triple trifecta here for you, so I hope you're still watching and subscribing and commenting and hitting the notification bell. Trifecta of rock and roll. Highly, royally dreaming. We got Highly Suspect, Royal Blood, and Dreamers. All relatively new rock bands that have come to fruition in just the last a decade or so, or nearer. Let's just start with the best. I don't care. That's not how YouTubers do it. That's how I do it, darn it. I'm giving you what you want. Highly Suspect. Alternative rockers formed in 2009 with a flavor of rock and roll that I absolutely adore. I'm going to be a fan of this band. I've been wanting to be for a while, and I've been teetering on the edge with them. Definitely a band I want to know more about, and I want to be able to tell the difference between them and these other bands.
Right now, I can't.
Highly Suspect was a band that I had heard a little bit of things here and there, but the music video for These Days was what made me want to dive deeper into this band, and I quickly found a solid discography to move around within. They're going to make it onto my list of my top 230 favorite artists one day. Them and Viagra Boys have a guaranteed slot on the list. And there's the bands that I get them mixed up with. Who could we get mixed up with Highly Suspect in their original form of rock and roll? There's Royal Blood, first and foremost. They formed about 2 years later and play a similar style of alternative rock, but with just two members. They're a rock duo. I've seen tons of people on the internet talking up Royal Blood like they're freaking rock and roll royalty. And I thought, I agreed with them in their comments, and then I listened to this album thinking that it was Highly Suspect, when in fact it was Royal Blood. It was a very, very good band, but I went into it expecting Highly Suspect. I do enjoy Royal Blood. While it doesn't bring me the joy of Highly Suspect, this fine young band is doing some pretty great things, and I will keep tabs on them from here on out. If they drop something new, I will be there for them. Favorite song, and the one that I know them for, is $1,000,001 off of their latest album. And lastly, we have the third part of the rock and roll trinity, the trifecta, if you will. We got Dreamers. This is a young band, the youngest of the bunch, formed in 2014 and advertised in comic books for some reason. They had a single with Grandson, which I enjoyed, called Heat Seeker. I'm trying to get into Grandson and his style of pop leanings as well. So I went and checked out this Heat Seeker song that the back of my comic books told me was so good, and go check it out. It was around that same time that I was getting into Highly Suspect, that I was listening to Royal Blood thinking it was Highly Suspect. So this makes sense, but they are a different band. Dreamers are the youngest band with the song Teaming Up with Grandson. That's Dreamers. Highly Suspect have rap elements and alternative elements blended in with the rock and roll, while Royal Blood are keeping it classy, classic rock kind of vibe with some new wave kind of guitar sounds. Thank you guys for watching this. This has been a fun video. Yeah, subscribe, woo, rock and roll. I am on a journey to hear every song ever recorded, and I definitely got to deep dive these catalogs of these bands. I got punched in the face for not knowing these bands. I got punched in the eyeball for not knowing the difference between these bands. Punched in the face for not knowing the difference between Steely Dan and the Moody Blues.